In my video series on solving equations, so far we have worked with adding and subtracting inside of equations and the idea of them as an inverse. We've also worked with positive and negative numbers. In this video, we are moving on to multiplying. Although it looks like there isn't any multiplication on this page, a 3 in front of an x has a little invisible multiplication sign in between it. So we could draw a little dot right between them if we wanted to. This is a coefficient in front of a variable. And what that means is 3 times x. And we don't really use the x anymore to mean multiplication, which is why I drew it as a dot, because that's a little bit confusing. We also could use parentheses. But when we are just looking at coefficients and variables, this is what it means. It means 3 times x. This one means 5 times x. So with the idea of inverses, remember that inverses undo. So if we're going to talk about inverses here, inverses are the undo button. Remember that adding and subtracting undo each other, multiplying and dividing are what undo each other. And that's what we're going to work with in this video. We're going to have multiplication and we're going to use division to undo it. So since this is 3 times x, you can think about this as dividing by 3 and dividing by 3. Since this is multiply, this is divide. Now we wouldn't really write it this way, but for this first example, we're going to think about it this way. And then in this one, I'm going to show you how you would commonly see it written. So remember, something that's multiplied and then divided cancels each other out. So that leaves just a single x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. We don't really write the 1 in front of the x, it's implied. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And that's our final answer. Pretty simple, this one step. Over here, we could write divided by 5 because that's what this really means. It really means there's a multiply. We could write divided by 5 to get rid of it. But more commonly, in your textbook, in your math classes, you're going to see that we're going to use the fraction sign. The fraction sign stands for division. It does mean division. It's as if it has two little dots on the top and the bottom. And we also have to do exactly the same thing to the other side. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So that leaves us with a single x. And 35 divided by 5 is 7. And that's our answer for the second equation. Let's go ahead and do some now that have negative numbers. So in this first example, we have negative 4x equals 16. Remember that there's a little invisible multiplication here, and so we are going to divide. You might be tempted to divide just by 4, but since we would also need to get rid of the negative, we're going to divide by negative 4. Don't get this confused with x minus 4, and therefore you are adding 4. In this case, the 4 is not in front of the x. It is behind the x. The x is subtracted by 4. So we are adding 4. When we're talking about multiplication, you are going to divide by exactly what's in front of the x. But we have to do it to both sides. 4 divided by 4 is 1, leaving us with a single x. And 16 divided by negative 4 is 16 divided by 4 is 4. And remember that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So our answer is -4. In this example, you might notice there's a negative in front of the x and then also a negative in front of the 8. That can be a little bit confusing, but let's go ahead and treat it exactly the same way that we did before. We know that this is multiply, so we are going to divide. And we know we can't just divide by 2. We need to divide by that -2 to also get rid of a negative. Only two things that are exactly the same turn into the number 1. -2 divided by -2. So we're also going to divide this side by -2. A -2 divided by a -2 turn into the number 1, leaving us with a single x. An 8 divided by a 2 is 4. But a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we have to be very careful. One of the biggest mistakes my students make is just not paying attention to the negatives, especially at the very end. Let's do 2 more examples where the variable term and the constant are all mixed up. You will notice that in these examples, the variable is on the other side of the equation. We don't do anything different than before. I often tell my students that one of the things they can do when an equation looks really unfamiliar is to just go ahead and start off by putting a line straight through the equal sign. We could have done that with any of the other examples that we did, but this helps us just get pencil to paper. I know that this is where the equal sign is going to belong, and so when I'm done solving the equation, the equal sign will still be here. I then also tell them to go ahead and orient yourself to where the x is. Where is the variable that we're trying to solve? And it's over here. So whether or not it's here or here, we are trying to kick things out of the side that the variable is on. So be very careful. You are not going to divide by 18 just because it's on the left-hand side. That's a pretty common mistake I see. Instead, you're going to remember that we're getting rid of everything around the x and that what's in between that -3 and the x is an invisible multiplication. So we are going to divide, and we have to get rid of the -3, so we're dividing by -3. We do it to both sides. -3 divided by -3 turn into a 1. So we have x is left. 18 divided by -3 is -6. 18 divided by 3 is 6, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative number. So our answer, using the symmetric property, is x equals -6. We can just flip it around so that it says x equals -6. Let's do another one. First, let's start by anchoring down that equal sign. Then we remember that we're looking for where the variable is so that we can kick things off of the side of the variable. That means we've got to get rid of this -5. Between the -5 and the x is multiplication, so I know I'm going to divide. And we divide by exactly the number that's in front. And we have to do it to both sides. -5 divided by -5 is 1. So we know we have a single x here. We know our equal sign always stays right in the middle. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So our answer is x equals 2. Good luck with those equations.